Hepworth & Co. Red Export Red Ale.
And remember, life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. I've got one here today from the Hepworth & Co. Brewing Company, which is a brewery that's based in Sussex, in the wilds of the south of England. And it is their red ale. Now, I've tried British red ale, or sorry, I should say English red ale. I've tried Irish red ale, and I've tried Scottish red ale and Welsh red ale as well. So I think I've got a fairly good grounding on what a red ale should taste like. And so far, I have to say, the one that really stands out for me is the Irish stuff, particularly not the Smithwick stuff. Fucking avoid that. That's just like a Marston's knockoff. But if you seek out the O'Hara's red ale, that really is for me an outstanding beer. They only do it in 330ml bottles. That should be done in pint bottles because it is so good. It really is a nice one. And I've yet to taste one that's better. But Hepworth are really good. Now, their pale ale is absolutely outstanding. I really like their pale ale. You know, and this is just personal taste of mine. So if you buy it and you don't like it, don't fucking come asking for your money back, because you're going to get fuck all. But I do like what they do. I like the ethics of the brewery. They really do take care in what they're brewing. They're very eco-conscious, if you know what I mean, and they make a big point about using local ingredients, supporting local farmers, which for me is just brilliant. That's what brewing is all about, in my opinion. But this stuff really did intrigue me because, as I say, I like the pale ale, but red ale is really good if you get a decent one. And to be honest, I don't think I've tried a bad one. It's more like which is the best one out of a fantastic bunch, if you know what I mean. And for me, at the moment, O'Hara's do the best one. This one, if it's anything like the pale ale, it's going to be a good one. They call themselves a craft brewer, which, you know, I don't have a problem with. They've been going a relatively short period of time. I think it's about the early 2000s. In fact, was this the brewery that didn't really have much information about when they started? I can't remember. It's all gone into a blur now. But this looked really promising, and I bought a load of their beer on the strength of the pale ale, how good that was. I got the pale ale in Morrison's, that was under £2. This is a little bit more expensive. I think it's nearer £3, but I really do like what this lot do. So let's stop gassing and guessing, and let's get this beer investigated. Okie dokie, it's 500ml bottle, it's 4.5%. It is a red ale, which is, they say it's an Irish style red ale. I have a bit of a problem with that term because, you know, the British they do have a style of beer called ruby ale, which I think is pretty much what they're trying to do. It's just the Irish have called it red ale. I think it's very similar. It's just basically a heavy, malty, when I say heavy, I mean full-bodied, malty beer that's reasonably sessionable, which is what most British red ales are. The Scottish one was the Orkney Brewery red ale. That's fantastic. The Red McGregor, check that out. That's another good one. But for me, the O'Hara stuff, that just wiped the floor with everyone. I'm hoping this is going to be a good one, because that would be really interesting. Because, you know, if I'm at least in two minds, then I can do a comparison video with this. But we'll see. On the back of the label it says This Irish style red ale was created for an export to Russia. The colour comes from the use of roasted wheat and sweetness from crystal malt. This is the big thing about ruby ales, red ales, whatever you want to call them. They've got a lot of sweetness in them. When I say a lot of sweetness, I mean comparatively sweet beers compared to other traditional style bitters, etc. And that usually comes from the crystal malt. Now the crystal malt, if you don't, you probably have heard this term before, crystal malt. If you don't know what that is, I'll just quickly go over it. What it is, it's a malt that has not properly germinated, and what they do is they harvest them, they put them into the malting rooms where they basically lay them on the floor, they spray them with water, and what happens is they germinate, and the plant will produce sugar to feed these new buds. But what happens then is, as soon as it starts germinating, they will throw them into a kiln. That will kill the buds, but it will leave the sugar on top, and the result is a very nice sweet malt. The Germans have got this down to a fine art. They know exactly what they're doing, and the British do as well when it comes to their sweet ruby ales, or red ales basically. But that's basically what they're saying here when they say the use of roasted wheat and sweetness from the crystal malt. That's basically what it is. That's what the crystal malt is. This is contrasted with the bitterness of admirable. I always say that. It's admiral. I've got a fucking. There's two things I have problems with. It's saying admiral. I can't fucking say it. Admiral hops and what's that Belgian beer? That Saint Fulon. I can't even fucking say it. They're the two words I have problems with. This one has got admirable. Fucking hell. You know what hops it's got in it, but it's also got Goldings in it as well, which are going to give it a nice counteract that bitterness. Going to give it a nice earthy, peppery style bitterness on the finish, and it just says it gives it a fulfilling character. So there you go. Yeah, and it's just got a little bit about the brewery there from a place called Pulborough, which is in Sussex. So yeah, there you go. Let's get it open, see what's going on. Right, I really am glad that I've tried the Hepworth beer, because they have produced some absolute fucking gems. That was on the strength of the, let me get that in focus, that was on the strength of the pale ale. Now the pale ale, I did a comparison video with Timothy Taylor, which is another one of my favourite pale ales, and what I got from that was the two brewers do the best of both worlds. The Timothy Taylor stuff has got the proper hop bitterness you would expect from a pale ale, but a little bit more extreme, and the Hepworth stuff is all about the malt. So two really good breweries in my opinion. So that's why I got hold of this stuff. And there you go. In the glass, yeah. Quite a fair bit of carbonation. And that's actually disappointing, because there's not much aroma there at all. Let me just get a bit more in the glass. It could be just my nose that can't get anything. Well, that actually smells of nothing. That's disappointing, and I'm really hoping I'm going to be proved wrong here, because I did a review of the Irish ale, and if they've based it on Smithwick's, I'm going to be fucking disappointed and angry at the same time. If you're going to base your beer on a macro brewed beer, which isn't great to start off with, then you're just going to be on a road to nothing. That literally does smell of nothing. Either I've got COVID, or this smells of nothing. Now, I have in the past had beers where I can't get anything from the aroma. I've drank it, had another bit of a sniff, and all the flavours have come flooding out. But sorry, all the aromas have come flooding out. But yeah, this doesn't smell too great. If I'm slurring a little bit, it's because I've just tried a Doppelbock and an Imperial barley wine, so I am one on the way. There is in the glass. I must say the head retention is really good. There's about a 1.5, depends how big your fingers is, head on that, and the aroma's just, they're really not there. I cannot get anything. This is like what Marston's do best. Flavourless, aromaless beer. Anyway, proofs in the tasting. Bottoms up. Yep, they based that on the Smithwick stuff. And that's a real disappointment. Nah. The flavours are not big in this at all. And again, O'Hara's, you still wear the crown for red ale. I'm pretty sure I know what Hepworth have done. If they've based it on the Smithwick stuff, that's, I don't know, it's like basing your beer on Budweiser and trying to come up with the best American beer. And you just think, well, why the fuck have you done that? In its defence, maybe I've just been spoilt with two really intensely flavoursome beers. I had tried the Weltenberger Doppelbock just before this, and I tried the Ridgeway Imperial Barley Wine, and they were two absolutely flavour intense beers. This, it just doesn't have anything really. In its defence, I will say it slips down very nicely indeed, and there is carbonation in there. Is there any aroma? No, not that I'm getting. Either I've got COVID or they've had a day out at Marston's and taken on board how to brew beer without any fucking aroma whatsoever. I really can't get anything out of it. It's relatively chilled. It tastes vaguely like a beer, but there's just absolutely no character in this whatsoever. And it slips down quite nicely, and the head retention is not bad. If you look at that, there is a reasonable amount of head on that, but nothing. And this is exactly what the Smithwicks tasted like. And what are they saying on the back? This Irish style red ale, well, the colour comes from the use of roasted wheat and sweetness from the crystal malt. Well, I'll tell you something, they bunged a load of wheat in that, not much of the crystal malt. and that is the result. They've got a base malt in there, and the hops really not getting any of the hop character at all. If anything, I'm really having to concentrate on what flavours I'm getting from this. And there was a vague caramel malt, but I've gone through half a pint in that short space of time. So there is a sessionable drinkability to it. But put it this way, I wouldn't buy this for flavour. So what's the verdict on Red Export? Massively disappointing. I went from thinking that the pale ale, which it is, don't get me wrong, it really is a good beer. I thought this lot know how to brew a beer, and I thought this was going to be on a par with the O'Hara's Brewery, and it just isn't. I know I've said it a few times, but if they base this on the Smithwick's red ale from Ireland, then, well, it's like basing it on Budweiser or something like that. I don't know who. I think Guinness might have taken over the Smithwick's Brewery. I know they're not independent anymore, but for fuck's sake, don't base it on that. Base it on a craft brewer. O'Hara's, honestly. O'Hara's is, for me, the standout red ale, and they've still got that title now. This lot don't even come close. That's a real disappointment. In its defence, I will say it's relatively drinkable. There's nothing in there. Maybe I should stop there. There's nothing in there, but there's no obtrusive flavours that make it not agreeable. If I wanted a beer that didn't taste of anything, and it wasn't Budweiser, I'd drink that. Here comes the Kraken.
Like wine and gin and pina colada.
Oh, fuck that, I ain't drinking that.
They're cocktail ones.
Yeah, have them. That was the missus asking if I wanted chocolates that tasted of wine and gin. Fuck off. Anyway, I'd rather have beer that tastes of nothing. Oh dear. Where were we? Yeah, this stuff, massively disappointing. I'm going to give it 3 out of 10 for the simple fact I can drink it and there's nothing obtrusive in it. But it was a massive letdown because I'd given it such a big build up. I thought this could have been a contender for the O'Hara's red ale. I really should get some more of that stuff. Stuff was great. But this stuff, yeah, it's a 3 out of 10. If you want a beer that tastes of nothing, fill your boots. That's all it's going to get from me. And remember, I'm drinking this shit, so you don't have to.